Welcome to another episode of Be Growth Driven, where we bring on entrepreneurs that are innovating, providing insights, and growing. We want to learn from their stories and share those stories with you. We know that this information is extremely valuable to any entrepreneur out there, and frankly, anybody in business as well, to really know how did people do it, where do they start, and their insights. So I'm actually joined today by a good friend of mine, Paige Zutavern. She's the president of Strictly Business Magazine, and they're nearing their 31st anniversary in business. It's circulating the magazine. The journal actually goes in Omaha as well as Lincoln. And so really privileged to have you here, Paige. Tell me a little bit about who's Paige?
Okay.
Let's get a little background on
Perfect.
like who is Paige. Let's get just like right into it.
Awesome. Well, I grew up in a small town in the Sandhills. Grew up on a ranch, so grew up with very hard work ethic. Worked, out scooping corn and doing all that good stuff as a kid. So I just had a passion for getting to know people and networking, and so went to the university, UNL. My major was actually fashion merchandising. Married my high school sweetheart. So he was getting his MBA at the university and looking to start a business. He was very entrepreneurial minded. So actually, we started our first business was Captive Indoor Advertising was the name of it. It was advertising in restroom stalls. So like the billboards in restroom stalls. Did that for a very short period of time, and then did called Green Mailer. It was a direct mail coupon book that we targeted by zip code.
Okay.
And we did that, and then started a publication called Automart was the name of it, and it was a car selling cars. This is way before the internet.
So bathroom stalls to cars.
Yes,
right?
to cars. And we had so many clients that kept saying with the coupon book, what the market really needed was a local business magazine that reported on local business news, gave them a voice. Right. And so we just jumped in with both feet. We just graduated from college. I always say, it's a great time to start a business when you're young, because we were used to eating ramen noodles, and so it's just a few more years of living that life. So
it's a little bit easier to jump into that and start something new than right now starting something completely new.
When you don't have a mortgage, we didn't have a mortgage or anything like that yet. So we started the magazine and in Lincoln, and just kind of grew it from there. So 31 years. It'll be 31 years in July.
Oh wow, 31 years. I mean, probably feels like the years just blow by.
It does. I mean, sometimes when I think about it, I've pretty much done this most of my adult career. I mean, I worked at Gallup after graduation for a few years, so I learned a lot there. That was a great training ground. One of the best things about working there is I had to do 150 dials every day. So, picking up the phone and cold calling and stuff wasn't scary for me, like it is for a lot of people. So
I think anybody in business, like anybody that's going to start a business, they got to learn how to dial the phone.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like, I started in a similar way back in the 90s, just telemarketing and pounding the phone.
Yes.
Just pounding the phone.
Yes.
And I remember the days I tell people sometimes, it's like, I remember the days of the 3x5 cards in manuscript. That's what you used to call off of back in the day when you're prospecting.
Oh yeah.
You're calling through the businesses, or you're literally pulling out the yellow pages. By the way, they used to make something called the yellow pages. It was a book.
Yeah.
And and you'd cross off. That would be your prospecting book, right?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. So killer, man. Okay. So what was the key strategies, would you say, that helped you guys develop Strictly Business? Because you went from bathroom stalls to cars to things of that sort. Like, what was the main things you're like, okay, hey, there's a need for this?
Right. I think that was it. We just kind of looked at the time, we had so many clients that said, this is something that's kind of lacking in the marketplace. Giving a voice, especially to small business. I think that was a lot of it is, being able to have a voice to small business. I think another big niche for us is kind of blue collar, so we have a lot of construction and that type of area, and really giving them a face, having people get to know their people. But I think a lot of it really goes back to just, the hard work ethic. I mean, just growing up with that, because starting a business, it's not easy. I mean,
No.
a lot of people have this idea. I always crack up when people say, well, oh, you own your business. You can set your own hours. You can go on vacation whenever you want. It's like, no, it's not quite like that.
Isn't that cute?
You work a lot harder than most people. I would actually work, like I think about it. I've been doing this for 31 years. I'm still working harder than I would if I was working for somebody else. But I love what I do. So
right. I think, like to that point there, like a lot of folks, they look at business owners and entrepreneurs and they think, oh man, they got it easy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They got a business. And a lot of people never see, we see pictures of the illustration of the iceberg, and there's the small amount that's above water and the big amount that's below water. Like a lot of people never see, employees, for example, never see the amount of work that as entrepreneurs we go through. Right. Just to make that peak come out of the water.
Yeah. Most definitely.
So I always find that interesting because I get the same comments. They're like, "Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah, like you must be rolling because your business." Like, hey, sometimes you're the least paid.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning.
Oh yes. There was definitely times throughout the years where I remember one time taking a really drastic pay cut, and my husband and I are both just like, okay, we got to do this because you got to pay your people first. You got to invest in the business. So
no, and Audrey and I've had the same thing where we've had some, over the years. It'll be 19 years here real soon for us on the 11th, and over 19 years, like we've had some years where like, man, we would have made more money working in fast food.
Oh yeah,
and however, it was the price we were willing to pay because we knew the dividends were worth way more.
Definitely.
And so that's the beautiful thing. I think that if anything, if you're going to take away like one nugget, like even right now at the beginning of this conversation, is like be willing to pay the price. It's like if you want what everybody has, are you willing to pay the price that they paid?
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
Well, who would you say has like been the most influential person for you in your career and your path?
That would be really hard to pick one person. It would be really, really challenging. There's been so many people throughout my lifetime. I think about it even as a child. I mean, my grandfather was definitely an inspiration to me because he was a laborer on a ranch, but he worked so tirelessly and was so loyal and so committed to his employer. I think that's probably been one thing that was maybe a little shocking to me when I started a business. Is I kind of thought that everybody looked at their employer the way he did, because I mean, you were never allowed to speak any ill will of anything about the family we work for. I mean, that's who provided our paycheck, and he'd say the food on our table is because of them. So I think that was maybe a little bit of a learning point for me to realize that not all employees look at you that way. But there's been so many people throughout the years. I would say probably instead of picking a person, I would say more organizations. I think one thing that's been so key to me is I've been very involved in like the chamber and a BNI at one point, but now Centersphere and LIBA is an organization in Lincoln. But I just, through that networking channel, that has helped my business so much of just making those connections and aligning yourself with the right business people.
Well, and I know you go through great lengths to really complete the mission of what you have. You started with Strictly Business, and you reach out to those brand new chamber members, the brand new businesses, because you're trying to give them a voice,
right?
And that's just phenomenal. I mean, that's how we've really connected, is because you reached out to us continually. We've over the 19 years, we've keep seeing it. And then, that consistency,
right?
And follow. So I give you full props because I love the consistency that you do, because that's something, as a lot of businesses, they drop that ball of consistency.
Right.
And then they wonder why sales are down or revenue's down. It's like, hey, you control your destiny as an entrepreneur.
Right. Well, and I think one thing that I realized a long time ago is that I'm in sales. That's my role, but I'm not selling Strictly Business as much as I am selling all my advertisers. So, I am always looking at opportunities to promote one of my clients, So like, as an example, if somebody has a car accident, it's like, oh, well, do you have a body shop to go to? I mean, or somebody's like, I'm looking for insurance. Do you have an insurance agent? Do you, anytime I hear somebody needs something, I am that person that's jumping in going, hey, here's who you should call. I know a really good person that represents that product or service.
Right,
And so
right.
I think that's one of the things that I really take great pride in, of being able to be a salesperson for multiple businesses out there and promoting them not only in the magazine, but just through word of mouth and at networking events and things of that nature.
Um, that's, I mean, and that's fantastic because I mean, you're really creating an opportunity to network, and
Yeah.
you're like you're embodying that. So
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. And I think what what I see from that though too is like that when you do that type of activity where you're giving and
Right.
you're giving,
Oh, yeah.
you'll always get.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well,
And
a prime example was, kind of when you started advertising, I met with a potential person to advertise in Strictly Business, and they were kind of talking about their needs and what they really were looking for, and I knew that I wasn't necessarily the right fit for them right now. But as he talked, I'm like, I know exactly who you need to call,
right,
So it's like I was able to call you and say, hey, and every time I talk to them, like, thank you so much for that. They're awesome. They're so pleased with the experience they've had with you
fantastic. Yeah,
guys. So it's, that connection. And I mean, every time I see that gentleman, I mean, he's thanking me, so
right.
you make me look good by doing
There
the
you
great
go.
work you
Yeah.
do. So
Well, it's just you create good
yeah,
collaborations, right? I remember hearing it like a number of years ago. It's like collaboration's the new currency, and it really always has been. It
yeah,
always has been the currency that has the greatest return on investment and
right.
value, right? So, um, as you've developed Strictly Business, as you developed your own entrepreneur journey, like what are the daily habits? What have you found to be the most impactful daily habits that help you keep centered?
I think probably first and foremost is staying positive. It's just
Yeah.
so crucial to stay positive. I'm faith based, so I think that's one thing too. Is just having that. It's not up to me. It's like turning it over to a higher power and know that it's like it's what is going to happen is meant to be. Integrity. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. It's just making sure that I'm not over promising. I'm not. Doing things that I'm treating my clients the way I would want them to treat me.
Right.
So, but I think definitely just, you know, getting up every day and grinding it out. I mean, there's sometimes it's
Right.
very tempting I mean, even through COVID, I think that was a really good test of, I went into the office every single day and just treated it like it was any
Yeah.
other
Oh.
time.
Oh, yeah. COVID was definitely it was a melting,
Yeah.
a refiner
Right.
for
Right.
so many businesses
Oh yeah.
because it really tested whether or not did you have the grit to stay with it or were you going to check out and make excuses,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
So like I mean, same thing for us. It's like we quickly went remote because we had all of our staff. However, at the same time, it's like I quickly brought everything back in office just
Right.
because it's like we've got to get work done.
Oh yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
get busy. I don't. This is an opportunity to grow, actually,
Oh yeah.
not to slow
Oh
down.
yeah. Definitely.
All right. So
Definitely.
no, I love that. So, but like, okay, so the positivity and the faith based, I love that too because it's like, um, there's a lot of folks they leave the importance that drives their morals. They leave it to the
Oh
side when it
yeah.
comes to business so
Most definitely.
so you see that. I remember there was a statement in a journal, I think it was Journal of Market Research. It's like people behave dishonestly enough to profit, but honestly enough to delude themselves of their own integrity.
Right. Right.
And we see that
Oh yeah.
today. So it's like you got to stand for something
Right.
there
Right.
and have a reason why you're standing there. So I appreciate that.
Well, and I think one thing too is as a business owner that I'm grateful for is I have the privilege of turning down business. And that's
Yeah.
one thing that over the years that I've learned, there's people that you don't want as a client. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm out there promoting a business. So I've had situations where, somebody has wanted to advertise and had plenty of money to do it, but they don't have good business practices. They
Right.
don't they
Yeah.
don't do what they said, so it's like I don't want to represent somebody that I can't be proud of.
So like if we dig into that a little bit, I mean, I think that's an important though thing too, because you could be at moments where you're like, well, I really need the revenue.
Yeah.
I really want that revenue. And they're willing to pay maybe a higher premium,
Right.
even, for example. Like, how do you make sense of walking away from that?
Well, I mean,
And how has that benefited you?
well, I guess it benefits me in one way of just I can look in the mirror and and feel
Right.
good.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes that when people know that you do that, I think it helps with um businesses respecting you. I mean,
Right.
one thing that I think I really am proud of is the number of clients that I've had long term. Like in Lincoln, we've been there 21 or 31 years, and I have one client that I've had the whole 31 years. But I have over 20 clients that I've had for over 20 years. So, I mean, I wouldn't have people in the magazine that long if I wasn't representing them well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that I take great pride in.
Very nice, very nice. No, I think like what you're talking about, like that ability to look. If you have someone that is rather a dishonest person,
Right.
right? That ability to say, "Well, I didn't go that way."
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's worth way
Yeah.
more than whatever you're going to get paid.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So no, I appreciate that though too. What if you were to think of like over 31 years? I mean, it all hasn't been roses.
Oh no.
Right? What was like a moment that you could share that was like a major setback?
Okay.
And how you got over that?
Yeah. Well, there's been a few different ones, but I think one thing for me that's been a challenge as a whole, not just one aspect, but I've been very blessed to have a lot of great employees over the years. But one thing I've found is when an employee leaves, for me, it's a little bit like a breakup, like somebody like what I wasn't good enough. You did, I didn't do enough for you, so that has been for me because my personality is very much that I want people to like me. I want to be friends with my employees. I want to be friends with everyone. So that has been something that I really had to adjust to. I'm not saying I'm
Right.
doing it great, but I've definitely gotten a little bit tougher, I guess, over the years.
I think that's a challenge for any entrepreneur. Like any business owner, for the most part, it's like you have people come in and you become family.
Yeah.
And then it does feel like a breakup.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what did I do?
Right.
And it's actually, there's obviously that's a whole nother conversation of like, employee hiring and retention and things to actually build on that. That's actually quite a good topic to talk about. But like that type of a challenge, like as a business owner, because especially as a small business owner,
right.
When you invest so much time into that one person and then they leave and you reset again.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's always kind of a little bit of a kick because you're like, oh my goodness, I got to find the right person again. I got to start over again. I got to take, and then in the meantime, you got to still make business happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And still keep things flowing the right way. Right.
Right.
So,
I mean, the one thing that's been really cool to see is how many of them that have left have owned their own business now or are presidents of a company or, really doing really, really well. So, I mean, that I'm excited, but still, I'm like, I miss you.
Right. Well, on that note there too, it's like, I think it's a positive thing. Like when you look at maybe somebody that's left your organization and what they learned from you, they went and started something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That is a good reflection of you.
Yeah.
Because you equipped it. Like I've had a number of employees where they've gone up to different things and bigger things that are really kind of like filling their bucket.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And so I look at that way. It's like, I really miss them. They were great.
Yeah.
Would potentially love to have, some of those back. However, it's like, what, they need to be on their journey. And and that's the thing that I've learned there is like, I got to be in that okay moment.
Right.
That I helped this person get on their journey, or I was part of their journey along the way. And so there's I find it rather inspiring.
Yeah.
Right. That now we've impacted somebody in that way.
Oh yeah.
To help them find the next step.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. What would you say, as you go through those challenges of setbacks like that, but just in different strategies that you've evolved over the year for your business, like how have you adapted to the changing times, you could say, because it's a print journal, but you have online and those types of things, but there's definitely been still lots of changes.
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously a print magazine, it's funny because I have so many people going, oh, wow, I bet, you guys are really been challenged with being a print publication. How are you doing it? Well, interestingly enough, it's been really strong. I mean, even COVID, I think we've had kind of an uptick in advertising since then. But I think a lot of it is we do have that online presence. We backlink every single one of our press releases. There's some of those things that we go that extra mile. But definitely the thing that has been the key for me is just always hiring great people. I've had so many amazing employees throughout.
Yeah.
And it seems like every time, like I said, every time someone leaves, I replace them with somebody equally as good, if not better. So that's the thing that's so awesome, is to have to have good people behind you.
You're getting better about what you know it needs.
Yeah, right.
Like I know we see the same thing. It's like we learn that this role, we need somebody that's just a bit more like this or this,
right.
For that role. And, and we try to develop the individuals as well,
right,
in a maturity path. However, it's like, if you can find it, now you know how to filter that person out better.
Right.
How would you say, what's the future? I guess tell us a little bit about the future goals for Strictly Business.
Future goals. Well, definitely Omaha is kind of a focus, because, we've been in Lincoln for 31 years. Omaha's only 16. So, trying to get active a little bit more in
starting
Omaha.
To drive, right?
Yes, exactly. Coming up to Omaha a little bit more. I like I said, I built a lot of my business based on that face-to-face contacts of getting to know people. I kind of have a little bit of the old school techniques. I mentioned the phone. Like, I like to call people way more than emailing. I like to get together one-on-one with my clients, so just, and prospects, like to meet people as much as I can. People are always asking me, okay, what's the next market? Where do you want to go next? And I always say Lincoln and Omaha. That's my focus. I feel like in order to do it justice, I have to be involved in the communities. And so I have no aspirations of going to another market. I just want to perfect these and continue to build on the relationships I have.
There's probably just a great amount of untapped opportunity yet.
Yeah, exactly.
In both markets.
Oh yeah,
both markets
definitely
are growing.
Yeah,
I heard something like in the next 6 years, like both the Lincoln and Omaha market's supposed to, I think, more than double.
Oh yeah.
So just like with what's coming, that's going to be more businesses, more opportunities, and the need for something like this that spotlights businesses, and shares that journey out there.
Right.
And now in that process of building in the future, like in both of these markets, you mentioned it earlier about, as far as like things like networking that you're doing, like how impactful is networking, would you say, for an entrepreneur? How important is it? Because some people are like, I don't have time for that.
I just, when I ever hear people say that, I'm always like, I think it is the best. Like, as an example, right before I came here, I was at a Centersphere meeting. I got to connect with 2 current clients, 2 previous clients, and I got to meet at least 5. I have at least 5 really good business cards. Nice. And a couple of them were people that said, oh, I get your magazine. I love it. We should meet. I really should learn more about you. So, I could spend all day cold calling to get 5 hot leads, So, I mean, I look at it that way. And then just, I think that touch, the more times you can be with someone, and like, as an example, this morning I was able to connect 2 people there. So I guarantee they're very appreciative that I connected those 2 together. So that's something you can't always do when you're not at a networking event.
It's some of the most impactful marketing.
Yeah,
if you really think about it, because now if you've made a good connection there, because you really listen, they remember that.
Oh yeah.
And they appreciate the fact that you actually cared enough to actually make that connection there as well.
Well, and I think there's such an art to networking too. I mean, I think the problem that a lot of people have when they're networking is, I think they're going out about it at self-serving. It's like, okay, what am I going to get out of this? It's like they go in and they want to hand out their cards. They want to talk about themselves. I've always kind of tried to take the opposite approach. I look for the person in the room that nobody's talking to, somebody that maybe is not, more introverted, doesn't like that. Go over, make them feel welcome, introduce them to some people, looking for clients or potential people that, because I work with so many different businesses, I know, like, oftentimes the kind of people that you're trying to connect with. And so connecting 2 businesses together, people are so grateful for that. And it's amazing. I remember, it's been years ago, but there was a girl that came to a networking event, and it was her first time. She was very shy, and it was, very uncomfortable for her. So I took her under my wings, went and introduced her to people. And like 5 years later, she was at a networking event and singing my praises to her boss and, other people. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is great, but she was so grateful that somebody went out of their way to make them feel welcome. Because she was like, I was just getting ready to leave because I was so uncomfortable being at that event. So kind of helping people.
And I think what you're touching on there is a very important thing to bring out, because it's like, as entrepreneurs, if we've been doing this for a while, like, we have a responsibility
Right.
to lift others up.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Not lift them as in do it all for them,
Right.
but build them
Oh
up,
yeah.
right?
You're right.
So, if I mean, because let's just face it, like entrepreneurship or like networking, things like that, like, it's not easy,
No.
especially
No.
if you don't do it often.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but if we can pull others up and lift them up, like,
Oh yeah.
you're helping a fellow human.
Yeah. Right. Right.
At the end of the
Oh
day,
yeah.
you're just being a
Definitely.
good
Yeah.
person.
Exactly.
And that's such a seldom thing that's seen, nowadays.
Right.
As you kind of look to the future, where do you see the direction? Because this is marketing at the end of the day. Where do you see marketing going?
Oh, that is,
Like,
I wish I had the crystal ball so I could,
right?
but, I mean, it seems like there's just constantly these new platforms and, new places online. But I truly believe that there's always going to be a place for some of the old school
Yeah.
concepts, as far as people want to really get to know the people that they do business with. That's one of the things that I find is I love when I can spend money with somebody and I feel like I kind of know them, or,
Right.
I've met them. I like, it's like you feel good about it, versus
Mhm.
when you have to purchase something. I mean, I take an example, like when my air conditioning unit went out, and you have to get a whole new air conditioning unit. And it's like, it's how much?
Right.
It's like, but when the people who we used was somebody that was a client, of course, but it was a small business. And so it felt good to, I don't want to say it felt, I can't say it felt great, but it felt
Yeah. You're
better
spending a lot
to
of money
write
you
a
didn't want to spend.
$7,000 check to somebody that, you felt this connection. You knew that, they really appreciated it.
Right. Right. And that makes sense. I mean, so do you see like a lot of different platforms, a lot of changes there? There's in marketing in general. Do you see that the print component that you guys are a heavy
Right.
part of?
Right.
Right. Do you see that as a mainstay?
I do. I mean, it's funny. People will say that, you know, I always talk about like the Kindle or some of those, like you talk to so many people and they're like, I would much prefer reading a physical book than reading something online. So, I feel like print will always have a place, because I think people do like the tangible. They like something that they can pick up and hold on.
Right.
Now, I think obviously marketing, all those different technologies are going to be a huge part of it. So I think that's
Right.
something that you have to, I mean, if you're in the print world, you have to adapt and you have to be friendly to, because I even look at my kids. I mean, if they need
Right.
something, they're always grabbing their phone and looking for things. But I feel confident that at least in my lifetime, that print will
Well,
remain
it's
consistent.
something I always tell clients, because we do a lot of direct mail for clients as
Yeah.
well. And I always tell clients, I'm like, when you can put something
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's tangible, it's in their hands,
Oh, yeah.
like this life, the lifespan of this versus something digital
Yeah. Right.
is so much longer. Because what do people do is they'll take something like this, they'll flip through it. Those advertisements are now making impressions. So like
Oh, yeah.
all of your advertisers that are here, that's all making impressions.
Right.
But then in addition to that, it usually sits there again and it lasts on the
Oh, yeah.
on the coffee table or whatever it may be. And so it has that lifespan, but the senses that it impacts,
Oh, yeah. Most
it
definitely.
doesn't mean you don't do the other channels, but
Right.
you have everything work in concert
Right.
together.
Right.
So it really kind of builds it up. And I appreciate your insights on all these things, and just as business owners, we go through these challenges. And so we always want to try to share the stories of what people have gone through. So I appreciate you sharing those things
Oh,
today.
yeah.
When you think about, the name of this whole podcast is Be Growth Driven. When you think about just the phrase Be Growth Driven, what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think, it's going beyond, it's pushing yourself out of your boundaries. It's going the extra mile. It's not being sedentary and staying where you're at, but looking to what new things can you do, what listening and learning from others.
Right.
I think for me, a lot of it too is like being growth driven is very much focusing on what are my talents, my core talents, and how can I capitalize on those and use them the best to bring my company
Okay.
to the next level, bring me to the next level follow my passion, that type of thing. So
awesome. I love it. I love it very much. Paige, thank you so much for jumping on
yes,
with us here today. We
definitely.
appreciate your insights, and we appreciate all of you for watching as well today. And tune in next week. We'll have another great guest that's going to be jumping on. Actually, I believe I know his name, but I'm going to keep that a secret because you got to check out the website for the next edition here. But definitely, thank you for coming on. And
Thank
until
you.
next time, be great because nothing else pays.